Divers found a jar on ancient Shipwreck, and what was inside is pretty much impossible. In 1672, the warship Kronan became the unarguable jewel in the Swedish naval's fleet's crown. Unfortunately, a mere 4 years later, it sank, taking the lives of almost all 800 crew members on board. As it disappeared beneath the waves, it also disappeared from history for several centuries. Then a few hundred years later, the divers made an unbelievable discovery inside a jar they found on the ship. What was inside the jar? I will tell you very soon, but before we continue with the story, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button below. And don't forget to turn your notifications on so you don't miss our new videos. It was only in 1980 when the wreck of the Kronan was discovered again. Over the next few years, various expeditions explored the wreck and were able to recover a lot of historically significant pieces. The most recent dive, however, provided the most remarkable and unexpected discovery. The Kronan was a multi-masted juggernaut that took an entire 7 years to construct. It was a force to be reckoned with when it finally took to the seas in 1672. While it may have been able to intimidate just about any ship on the seas, the sea itself would prove to be its greatest enemy. While making a sharp turn when it encountered rough waters, the ship was capsized. To make matters worse, the gunpowder that was stored on the ship was ignited as well. The ensuing explosion was the final nail in the coffin for this majestic ship. The Kronan sank to the ocean floor where for 300 years it lay hidden, becoming home to all kinds of sea creatures and aquatic life. Inside, it still harbored many artifacts and treasures to be found. The wreck was only rediscovered quite by chance by an amateur researcher named Anders Franzen in 1980. After it was found, the Swedish government sponsored archaeological dives every year to find any artifacts that lay within. What was hidden in the wreck of this once proud ship, however? When the divers were exploring the wreck, they couldn't help but be overcome with awe at the sight of the massive ship, its sides bristling with cannons, making it clear that it was a most formidable warship before it sank. The divers explored the inside of the ship, swimming through the massive structure. They explored dozens of rooms that once housed the crew and were equipped with weapons. There was no doubt that this was a true juggernaut in its day. Armed with special equipment to remove the sand and mud that had covered the ship and its interior over the centuries, the divers set to work. They cleared of every surface of the ship and in doing so revealed an incredible treasure trove. All the artifacts that the divers recovered from the wreck of the Kronan will be sent straight to Kalmar County Museum in Sweden, of course. The museum had already prepared an entire exhibit to do with the Kronan that would be unveiled as soon as everything had to be excavated. Among the artifacts that the divers found were many 17th century rifles and firearms. Apart from the intrinsic value of such old and rare items, the weapons also offered a much clearer view of the 17th century warfare and armaments. Some of the information even amazed the experts and revealed information unknown before the discovery. Once excavated, the firearms were carefully cleaned and restored, leaving them looking like new before they were put on display. However, as fascinating as they were, the guns were not only amazing artifacts that were uncovered. Many of the artifacts that the divers found were much simpler. However, they provided an amazing and previously unknown insight into everyday life in the 1600s. These artifacts even included instruments like violins and trumpets, which were most likely used to provide entertainment to the crew while at sea. During one of the expeditions, divers came across a gold ring that was in pristine condition. Even after centuries at the bottom of the ocean, the ring sparkled like the day it had been made. It looked as if it had only been deposited there by accident. Probably the most exciting find of all was the load of gold and silver coins that the ship had been carrying when it sank. Divers were amazed when they came across coins from not only Sweden, but even as far afield as Egypt, Syria, and Turkey. It was the biggest coin find in Swedish history. One of the most important things they found was a wooden plaque with the name of the ship scrawled across it. It may not have been worth as much as the gold and silver, but this plaque was an intact part of history, and equally as important as everything else. The Kalmar County Museum was more than ecstatic to display all of Cronon's lost treasure. However, they had no idea that the most interesting item was yet to be found. Just when researchers thought they unearthed nearly everything of importance, one of them came across this black tin jar nestled in the mud, and it was heavy. More gold and silver coins, perhaps? When scientists finally pried open the can, they were overwhelmed by the pungent smell. They stared at the greyish lump of mush and suddenly it hit them. It was some kind of preserved cheese product. They described the smell as a mix of yeast and Roquefort cheese. During the era when the Cronan was built, cheese was a real status symbol. It separated the rich from the poor. In this case, however, the cheese was well past its prime. No one intended to add this Cronan cheese to a gourmet cheese plate anytime soon, but just the fact that it was still in relatively good condition stunned everyone. Where's Andrew Zimmern when you need him? He'd probably give this a taste. The Cronan cheese sits on display at the museum along with the rest of the findings. Since the ship was discovered in 1980, diving teams have collected over 30,000 artifacts, and they haven't even explored every nook and cranny. Maybe they'll come across a nice Merlot to pair with the cheese. Share what you thought of the discovery in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video.